we have a change. The Seattle Seahawks remain at number 1. The Denver Broncos vault their way up to number 2. The New England Patriots, who have as many wins over 500 or better teams as the New York Giants do this year, vault up to number 3. And the LA Rams, after losing on Monday Night Football, free fall 2 spots to 4. Frank, did one loss change your opinion of the Rams that much?
Not just the one loss, but now it combines with the loss last week. I did not move them after collapsing against the Seahawks. I said, you know what, the Rams are still a really good team. And then you just lay an egg last night. I mean, they were lucky to be in that game. When you get a blocked field goal for a touchdown and still lose a game, you got destroyed. You need to win that game if you're the Rams, and they couldn't do it. By the way, that Puka Nacua catch by the sideline that looked like a catch, but then it wasn't. That would have gone down as like a top 5 all-time catch. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my screen, and then he bobbled it just a little bit. But anyway, yes, the Rams moved down just because it kind of compounds a little bit. Like, okay, your last 6 or so quarters of football have been really, really bad. I still think the Rams are good. I wrestled with this. I thought about keeping them at number 2, but I thought they deserved to move down a little bit. Not that the Broncos or Patriots necessarily deserve to move up, but I still believe in the Rams. I just had to put them on timeout a little bit. They're grounded for a week.
I thought that catch could have counted just because it was cool. I think we need to have some space, some wiggle room in the NFL to make things.
That should be the replay review. You know what? It was cool enough. We're gonna just get.
I love the idea of a ref actually opening the mic and saying, "Hey, not really sure, but we're gonna rule this a catch, and all of you complaining at home, your fat ass couldn't do it, so don't stop us." Like I love the idea of this just happening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we need to just have a little bit of wiggle room here in the NFL. But I want to stick with 3 and 4. We just saw Drake May have a near flawless game. Then we had Matthew Stafford lay an egg and throw 3 picks against a not very good Atlanta Falcons team. Did Matthew Stafford lose himself the MVP last night?
Yeah, I think he did. And that stinks because, he is a sentimental choice. This is probably his last shot at MVP. It was going to be a cool story for him to win it at 37 for the first time. But I sit here and I always say this about power rankings, about how I feel about MVP, anything. I try not to be a prisoner of the moment because we do that all the time when we talk about the NFL. It's like people wanted me to move the Denver Broncos way down last week after losing to Jaguars. I'm like, guys, they're 10-1 in the last 11 games. Like it's okay to not just freak out about one game because everybody behind him on this list has lost games too. And same with Matthew Stafford. You say, well, he had a bad game, sure, but he's had a great season. But it has been, I believe he's thrown, 9 interceptions the last 5 games or something like it's. He's really kind of, his play is dropping a little bit right now. Well, Drake May is getting better. He career high 380 yards against the Ravens 2 weeks ago. Career high 5 touchdowns against the Jets, who barely are in the NFL anymore, but still 5 touchdowns and a career high. So I think Drake May's playing better. Matthew Stafford's playing worse. You almost have to be a little bit of recency bias there to say, yeah, Drake May not only is going to win MVP, but at this point, I guess I haven't really decided where I stand, but I do think he deserves it at this point too.
Drake May, MVP on the field, and Michael May, MVP off the field. Let's get into our next grouping of rankings, 5 through 8. San Francisco up to 5 from 11. Quite the jump there. 6 spots. Jacksonville at 6. Chicago down 2 at 7. The Houston Texans at 8. Let's stick with San Francisco. Up 6 spots. But it may be deserved based off of what we saw from Brock Purdy, a 5-touchdown performance against the Chicago Bears. What did you learn about San Francisco this past week?
See, and the thing is, the reason I had them at 11 is because I didn't believe in the defense. And I just kept saying that. Also, they hadn't beat anybody good. The Bears are their first quality win since the Rams back in week 5. If you look, everybody talks about the Patriots schedule. The 49ers caught in a very easy schedule too. But what did I learn on Sunday night is their offense is great and their defense stinks, which I already knew that. But at some point, you just have to kind of give in and just say, I don't know how Kyle Shanahan's doing this, coach of the year, by the way, but they win every week. I keep saying they can't keep winning with this defense. They can't keep winning with this defense. And then they do. And they're 13-3. Injuries have ravaged them and they just keep winning. Even on Sunday night, Trent Williams goes out on the first play. George Kittle is out. You're talking about the greatest offensive tackle ever, perhaps, and one of the greatest tight ends ever. And they still are just like, okay, we're still going to put up 42 points. It doesn't matter. Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy are on such a heater right now that I had to move them up. I had to correct the wrong. Look, I resisted for a long time, said this defense can't do it. But at some point, it's just like your offense is so good, it doesn't matter. And I don't particularly like these teams. I do have a bias against teams that just play no defense whatsoever. I don't like watching Big 12 football. I just don't do that. But this team is really good. And in this flawed NFL, it's like, why not the 49ers? Why can't the 49ers maybe win just 2 home games to make a Super Bowl if they beat the Seahawks on Sunday? So I will say I'm picking the Seahawks to win this week. I think the Seahawks do take the NFC West, take the number 1 seed. But it is my bias against teams that don't play defense like the 49ers.
Where are you on the Jags and the Texans? Because these are 2 teams you've got closely power ranked. These are 2 teams in the same division. Which one do you think has a better shot at a real, deep, tangible playoff run?
And I only have to say the Jaguars because I believe they're going to be division champs to get a home game. It's just so much easier. 1 home game versus 3, going on the road 3 straight weeks. I don't know that Texans can do that. But if they all played on a neutral field, if we did just like the NCAA tournament where, you're going to Boise, Idaho to play the first round of games, I think I would take the Texans. I just love their defense. Their defense is unbelievably good. Ask Justin Herbert. Like, he was getting crushed that entire game. But I'll give the Jaguars credit too. They're just playing better and better and better. And you get to the point where nobody's talking about the Jaguars making a deep run, right? Kind of because of Jaguars, kind of because we don't all trust Trevor Lawrence yet. But I watch that team every week and I say, who's playing better than the Jacksonville Jaguars right now? Like, every week they go out, look good. They're beating good teams. They pass the eye test, all this kind of stuff. They're going to win their division. They're going to end up 13-4, I believe. Why not the Jaguars making a deep run? So I have them very close. And I think that I just prefer the Texans with the way they play. That defense is so good. But why not the Jaguars making a run? They could beat the Broncos. We saw that a couple weeks ago. They could beat the Patriots. Why not? Like, there's no team the Jaguars can't beat to go all the way to a Super Bowl.
And to that point, we'll go to the next 4. But I will say, every single one of these 4 that you have right here at 5 through 8, if you told me they were going to go on a Super Bowl run, I'd be like, all right, this year, it's a weird year.
Yep.
9 through 12, I don't believe in – these are bigger brands, teams that we expected more of, and I can find a fatal flaw that keeps every single one of these teams out of that same conversation. Like, I don't know. You've got the Bills down 3 here. Eagles, Bills, Chargers, Packers. You've got the Bills down 3. I don't know what the hell to make of the Bills, Frank. Like, if you told me the Bills were going to go to the Super Bowl, I'd say, okay, cool. If you told me the Bills were going to be one and done and out in the first game, I'd say, okay, cool. I don't know what to make of them.
Absolutely. I mean, you just lost to an Eagles team at home that had 16 yards in the second half. Like, I can't get that excited. I understand why anybody would pick the Bills. You just say, I'm going to pick the best quarterback in football to go through the playoffs and make a Super Bowl. Why is that so tough? Okay, understandable. Josh Allen is a superhero. I get it. He can carry a team. Chase Cook's very good, by the way, too. But this defense is not very good, unless you're playing the Eagles, I guess. And the rest of that offense, they just don't scare anybody on the outside. What's their number 1 pass target right now? Khalil Shakir? Like, I like Khalil Shakir, but like as a number 3. Like, they just don't they don't threaten you on the outside whatsoever. It causes defenses they can play a certain way because they just don't respect anybody. They don't have a JSN. They don't have a Justin Jefferson. They don't have anybody where you fear that all week. You're just like, whatever. Dawson Knox ain't going to beat us downfield. We're fine. Josh Allen's awesome, but I don't trust the Bills. And you're right about the rest of these teams. It's kind of the what if, group. What if Micah Parsons and Tucker Kraft stay healthy? Because I think the Packers' ceiling just dropped so far. We could see that. We could see that against the Ravens. This is not the same team. They look like a one-and-done team to me. I've said this for a while now. I think the Chargers would be clearly the best team in football if their offensive tackle stayed healthy. Not just like we'd be talking about, is this an all-time great team? I'm not even lying. I think they'd be like 14-2 right now if their offensive tackle stayed healthy, but they didn't, and they can't block anybody. So that's a fatal flaw for them. The Eagles are just, again, 16 yards in the second half. Are you serious? That's not against the Bills defense, which isn't even good. Like, we're not talking about them playing the Texans. That's not even NFL football at that point. 0 completions, 16 yards in a full half of football. The Eagles offense is just unwatchable. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to completely cross off the Eagles as far as a playoff run goes, because they're the Eagles and their defense is really good. And who knows, maybe they can get it going. But yeah, these teams all have issues they're just not getting fixed.
If a unit could win league MVP, the Eagles defense should. Because the fact that they've had three games with, 5 passing yards and a half, and they are 3-0 in those games is truly impressive. It's so bad that it's impressive. But I want to look at the Packers for a second because you mentioned that their ceiling just fell significantly, and I don't disagree with you. So why are they staying pat at 12?
It's just one of those things where who behind them deserves to move up. Like, I thought about it. I thought about the Packers are more like, they felt to me more like this is like the 14th, 15th best team of football. And then I looked behind them and I said, all right, well, nope, they're 12. Like, none of these teams deserve to move up. So the Packers stay at 12. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't. I think they're a perfectly fine. They're deserving of making the playoffs. They're the exact same team they have been the past couple of years, which is you have a bunch of really good players and you don't have enough great players to make a playoff run. And I that stinks for the Packers, but I just don't see them going anywhere. Now, I say that everybody's flawed this year, so maybe they make a run. If they play the San Francisco 49ers, they could put up 42 points and beat them because the 49ers can't stop anybody and stuff like that. So if they play the Eagles, like, I don't think you're worried about the Eagles offense killing you. So they could make a run just based on that, but just as a team, they're once again a good team that's not good enough to do anything in the playoffs.
All right, let's get to our next grouping of rankings. 13 through 16, we've got the Steelers, the Panthers, the Ravens, and the Vikings. And we have a matchup for
right. Look at this group. Like, which of these teams should move up ahead of the Packers? That's what I did last night. I'm like, really? The Steelers? Oh, okay, you just lost to the Browns. Anyway, go on, Caroline.
That's like like a main line of demarcation, line in the sand in the NFL power rankings there. Let's look at Steelers, Ravens. It all comes down to week 18, and I love that we get football that matters in week 18, especially when it comes between one of the best rivalries in the NFL and the Steelers and Ravens. If you had to hitch your wagon to one of those two teams, Ravens, Steelers, who are you hitching it to?
That wagon is broke down at the side of the road, by the way. We're not moving anywhere. Yeah, I'll say this. I'm not hitching my wagon to any team, but which one am I de-hitching? Can I do it? I'm out on the Ravens, and maybe I'm still mad that they were so disappointing as my Super Bowl pick. But okay, fine. They played great one game against the Packers. I've watched them the first 16 weeks of the season play a lot worse than that. Like, okay, they had one good game. So what? It's one good game out of 17 weeks. They're not a good football team. They're just not. And the whole Lamar Jackson drama, and everybody, by the way, everybody who was like, why did the Ravens do this every week with Derrick Henry? Well, maybe it's because he's 31 years old and he can't handle 36 carries a game. Like that, let's be a little realistic about this. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? They just decided we need to win this game. We need to give Derrick Henry the ball as much as we can. And I think it was a little bit of a passive-aggressive John Harbaugh. Oh, you're going to criticize me all week for not giving Derrick Henry the ball enough? Here you go. Here's 36 carries for the big dog. So great for them to be alive right now. I do think they probably maybe beat the Steelers on Sunday night. I just don't know. By the way, that game is so fascinating, not because of who makes the playoffs, because both of these teams stink. But you think about whoever loses this game. John Harbaugh gone? Is Mike Tomlin gone if they lose? Is Lamar Jackson going to be traded? Is this Aaron Rodgers' last game? Do the Steelers completely rebuild? We talked about this on Inside Coverage last night. And it's a fascinating game, not in that one of these teams makes the playoffs, because who cares? Neither of these teams make a Super Bowl. But what happens to the losing team? The narratives are just completely going to flip based on the result of one game on Sunday night. It's great theater. It's really good theater.
Stick there, though, for Frank. I'll ask you this, right? Either, neither, or both. I know we got to keep moving, but either, neither, or both, right? Either, neither, or both. Steelers, Ravens fire their head coach this offseason. Based on what you think and what you've heard from everybody on Inside Coverage and your information, either, neither, or both when you talk about a coach being fired.
I think it's either. I think it's loser leaves town. I think it's, I know you love the 80s wrestling references, Fitz. That's why I do it for you.
This, yes.
I do think this is loser leaves town. I think that the losing coach, if you're Tomlin, if you're the Steelers, all that stuff we talked about Tomlin and the fire Tomlin chance and all that from 3-4 weeks ago, that all comes back if you miss the playoffs. If you blow the 2 winnable games against the Browns and against the Ravens at home, all of the stuff we've been saying about Tomlin when they were struggling comes back. And if the Ravens lose, I think that they have to look at it and say, maybe Lamar and Harbaugh aren't getting along. The reports about that. Well, who are you going to pick? I'm sorry, John. I'm picking the 2-time MVP quarterback. Maybe he's had his own issues, but I'm not moving on from Lamar Jackson. So I do think whoever loses this game, I do think it's a tough conversation. And I don't think you just fire him like on the tarmac like you're Lane Kiffin or anything. But you just have a conversation of, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to amicably part ways. but this just isn't working anymore.
All right, we got to fly. So let's get to the next grouping here. Lions, Cowboys, Bengals, Dolphins. That's our next grouping here. I'll ask you this. Of these 4 teams, which team do you have the most faith next year can have a bounce back?
Easily the Lions. I think our metrics are still good. 3rd and DVOA, plus 65, I believe, point differential. All those players we know. Something just win and miss with the Lions this year. But yeah, I think we're back in the playoffs next year.
All right, let's go through the next grouping. Bucs, Falcons, Colts, and Saints. Is right. But I know we don't want to overreact to one game and one result, but did Raheem Morris save his job last night?
It shouldn't be based on that, right? Like, you shouldn't base something on, well, he beat the Rams, we got to keep him around. Is he the right guy or not? And I think it was almost more disappointing for the Falcons to win the way they did last night. And let me explain. Because I think all the Falcons fans are saying, we're good enough to beat the Rams. We're good enough to blow out the Bills. Why are we 7-9? Why do we lose all these? That's a coach. Like, if you're losing games, you shouldn't lose. That's a big part of the coach. I think either is Raheem Morris your guy or not. It shouldn't be, well, he beat the Rams, you got to stick around. I think that's such flawed thinking.
Do you think any of those 4 teams will fire their coach? Obviously not the Saints. We all believe Kellen Moore's good. I would think Shane Steichen's good.
I've been kind of chiding this incredulous report on Sunday morning. Like, how dare you say Todd Bowles is on the hot seat? That man won 3 division titles in a row. Yeah, the worst division of football he won 3 times in a row. And he's on the verge of going 1-8 down the last 9 games with a healthier team, by the way. This is not like, oh, well, injuries just got him like the Colts. What can you do? No, this team got healthier, and they slid to 1-8 with some inexplicable losses. And we're saying Todd Bowles can't possibly be on the hot seat? Really? Like, whether they keep him around or not, I don't know. Ownership will decide that. But acting like, how dare you say Todd Bowles on what? Like, Todd Bowles has been awful in the second half this year. He should be on the hot seat.
How about our next grouping here? We've got Kansas City, Cleveland, Washington, and the Giants in your next grouping here. Look at this Washington team for a second, because I think we can all agree the Chiefs, fine, it is what it is. I'm not sure there's more to say about how bad the Browns have been. You understood better than anybody that the Commanders were going to make the playoffs last year, and you understood better than anybody that the Commanders were going to step back this year. But 4-12 is drastic. Is this fixable in Washington?
And the problem, Fitz, is they have the oldest roster in the NFL somehow, and the oldest since like 2010 or something crazy. They're the oldest roster since. I've written about it before. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But the point being, for a team that like broke out last year and you're like, this team is young and on the rise because they got Jaden Daniels. No, they have a really old roster. So I think it might take a couple of years now where you just need to reset the roster. You need to get younger somehow. And that doesn't lead to immediate success a lot of times. So I'm not exactly sitting here saying I think the Commanders are going to make it back to the playoffs next year, on top of the fact that now we have to say, this was the question before the draft, right? Can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? I don't know that we know the answer to that. And that's another troubling thing in Washington.
Before we get to the absolute dog doo-doo of the bottom 4 of the NFL, we buy in the reports that the Giants could potentially be in on a quarterback in this draft if Dante Moore decides.
I don't get that. Like, look, if you love Dante Moore or Mendoza or whoever you got a shot to pick, and you are like that, we cannot pass this guy. We got to take. Okay, cool. I do understand that thought. But for people who are like, well, Jackson Dart ain't it. What are we talking about? He's had 10 starts. He's looked pretty good. We're just doing this again. Why do we have this microwave mentality with quarterback development? Jackson Dart has been completely fine as a rookie. Yes, he gets hurt too much. Yes, he plays kind of dumb, like slide once in a while, like just once in a while, Jackson. It's okay, I promise. But we're just dumping him after like 10, 11 starts that have been pretty good. Like, he has like an 89 passer rating. It's not like he's down in the 60s or something. Like, I don't get this. It floors me that people are like, well, I'm out on Jackson Dart already. Really? Like, I thought he's been pretty good. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm dumb. But I actually have enjoyed watching Jackson Dart play football and say, yeah, I want to see this through and see what he's got the next couple of years.
It should be noted the Atlanta result last night changed the strength of schedule enough to guarantee that no matter the outcome, the Raiders and the Giants, in some order, will pick first and second in the NFL draft.
Now, Fitz, speaking of which, we didn't talk last week. What'd you feel about the Raiders shenanigans and then getting blown up? Were you like, yes, we get the first pick, or were you like, oh, this is really embarrassing? What are we doing?
I'm literally working on a long form think piece about why having the first overall pick means you're absolutely screwed for a very long time. That's how I feel about it, Frank. More to come. That's a teaser. There's the end of the. So, man, we ran out of time before we had time to talk about these four. Arizona Titans.
Oh, weird how that happens.
It's crazy, Frank. It's great. This was some of your best rankings. Some of the best work you've ever done, and we appreciate you, brother. Happy New Year. Thanks for spending every single week with us. We're not done, but I can't tell you enough. I mean, we talk all the time as friends, but you mean a lot to this show, so we appreciate that you take the time every week to do this and to let everybody just yell at us. It's a Happy New Year in part because you spend time with us every single week, so thank you, brother.
Always appreciate you guys.
Oh, man, cannot wait. Shot and a drink with Frank in San Francisco. That's what I know. Power rankings recap. Seattle number 1. I can't remember who was number 32. Doesn't really matter. Top riser, the 49ers up 6. The top fallers, the Bucs and the Colts, both down 4. Also interesting, Frank, pretty adamant that the Bucs don't deserve a lot of excuses for that free fall. And just a reminder that about a week from today, Caroline, there's going to be a bunch of job openings. So there is still something to play for because the NFL is always wild when it comes to not meeting expectations.
The NFL has been extra wild this year. Call it recency bias. I don't think it is. It feels like the Super Bowl is going to be like somebody's got to win it bowl, because every time we feel like we have a good grasp on the hierarchy of the NFL or the best teams in the NFL. Like last night, we saw the Rams just lay an absolute egg on national television. And it's like, okay, well, now who wants to reveal themselves as the best team in the league or the best teams in respective divisions? Let's point out that the Bucs, with the Falcons winning last night, the Bucs now feel like they're in a very uncomfortable position, because if the Falcons win out, then the Panthers will win that division. So the Bucs find themselves in a very uncomfortable position. To Frank's point, there's not a whole lot of excuses that can be made in Tampa Bay. So a whole lot of teams that have a lot to answer here over the final week of the season and into the postseason.
And in the meantime, the NFL higher-ups in New York can all panic just a little bit at the thought that there's at least a chance that we end up with a Jags versus Panthers Super Bowl, for example, in San Francisco.
I'm here for it.
You and I are here for every ounce of it. I'm not sure that the league would pick those two particular brands to be the brands that they fight for and with.